Welcome to another edition of Funnel Vision, where we talk about all things full funnel marketing, as well as life, liberty, and the pursuit of an optimized media mix. Today, we have a very special guest in the studio that no doubt will bring a tremendous amount of value to you guys, and really look forward to this conversation. John Holland, our Director of Paid Search at Ad Leverage, is joining us today on Funnel Vision. John, how the heck are you?
Doing great, man. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Awesome to have you on with us today. The landscape is changing unbelievably quickly, right? That is, I think, 3 of 4 articles you'll read nowadays in the popular search publications are talking about how quickly it's changing. But you've been doing this a long time. You're, on the front lines of these changes. Why don't we start with this? What are some of the key changes that are really defining what paid search actually encompasses today?
Paid search is one of those things where it once had a very specific meaning and now it's all over the map. So it still is your traditional Google ads on Google search. You type something in, you see an ad at the top of the search results, you click that and you go to the website. That's the core of it. Then there's all these other pieces to it. There's YouTube ads, there's display ads, so like banner ads, there's ads on your Gmail account, there's ads on your Google Discovery feed, and all of that together, plus other things I didn't even mention, lead to what we call paid search.
And John, considering the fact that you've been in the search game for about 20 years now, what are some of the biggest changes you've seen over that period of time?
Well, it's really gone from being very hands-on to very algorithmic based. So, I got into PPC after spending a few years doing SEO because I was tired of working against the search engines and I wanted to work with them. And what's been happening is now we're forced to work with them even more than we ever thought. You used to go in and manually adjust bids on every keyword. So like what you were willing to spend on a click on that keyword multiple times a day in some cases. You say, all right, I'm willing to bid $2 now. I'm going to change that to $4 for the afternoon. And then tomorrow we're going to see what it looks like. Maybe we'll bring it down to $5 or whatever it might be. But now we're allowing Google's algorithms, because they've gotten so smart, to handle all of that work for us, because it has so many different triggers that are faster and smarter than what we could do manually. And it was really scary for a while when they were pushing this and starting it, because it wasn't working. And so you'd spend your clients' money and sometimes it came back to them, but oftentimes it didn't. And you wanted to get that control back that you used to have. Now, as they've progressed everything, these algorithms work really, really well. And if we are giving it the right information to work with, it's able to find the right audiences that convert and are very successful for our clients.
All right. So in line with that, what would you say, what does an optimized search campaign look like? And then we'll get into the human element in just a minute, because it sounds like some of that has been reduced, but we know the value of somebody that really knows the ins and outs of having the hands-on keyboard there. But let's start with, from your perspective, you've obviously audited hundreds of accounts, and you know exactly what we look for at Ad Leverage to ensure that we feel like there's real quality within an account that we're auditing. What does an optimized paid search campaign look like to you in the modern search environment?
I think the most important thing is the account needs to have the right information to work with to be able to be successful. So what I mean by that is we need to be tracking the right actions to then be able to understand what keywords are more effective and where our budget is most effective. And by tracking the right things, it not only means like, oh, should we be tracking phone calls or form fills, but are we also pulling in the revenue that those phone calls are leading to, or those form fills are leading to? So if I see an account that doesn't have that in place, that account is basically flying blind, because it doesn't know that this phone call that came in on Tuesday afternoon ended up being worth $42,000. And this phone call that came in on Monday morning ended up being worth $150. It's treating them the exact same, even though maybe they came from the exact same keyword. That's going to be different in the eyes of the client. So we need to make sure that Google is getting the information about how valuable each of these clicks are actually with the revenue that they're driving, and setting up a structure that allows it to be able to bid appropriately and to be able to find the right audiences that are going to be either high value, or we understand that they're lower value, so we want to get higher volume of the low value conversions. So I mean, I could get into exactly what I want a structure of an account to look like, but most importantly, we need to have the information in place for the account to be able to be successful.
Right. So now it's really about that feedback loop and closing that feedback loop with Google, and not only accepting a phone call or a form fill on the front end as the equivalent of a lead that turns into a book job and turns into real revenue. Right. So I think that, in all of our conversations, our clients couldn't care less if you got a bunch of leads on paper that don't turn into book jobs. They care a whole hell of a lot about real opportunities, getting their guys into homes, and what kind of revenue is generated in that home.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what Insight, our proprietary tool, does so well, is it provides that information to Google in a way that other tools aren't able to. I've never worked with anything that's this powerful. So, typically, you would, in an e-commerce world, it's really easy to capture what each click brings back. That's simple. But with lead generation, it's a longer play, and it's really hard to pin down, did this paid search click actually lead to the $15,000 job, or was it this organic click that happened 3 days later? And with Insight, it really is able to kind of clean up that data and show which one was the valuable click that brought in that revenue. And it passes that back to Google Ads when it is Google Ads that drove the value. And that's what makes it very useful. So that's why I really love working with Insight, is because it takes the mystery away from, if we didn't run this ad, wouldn't we still get the business? Well, not necessarily, because what we're seeing in the journey to actually closing that deal is the paid search ad was the instrumental part in getting the engagement.
That's right. And so sometimes without Insight cleaning up that data, we see it all the time where the conversion happened from a call on the website. That's where the job actually was booked on that phone call. And that revenue generated from that phone call goes back to website when 3 days before that person performed a search for best HVAC company near me, or best electrician near me, or something to that effect. Best electrician, San Antonio, Texas, something like that, actually generated the interaction that led to the website interaction that led to the revenue. So if you don't have something in between that is saying, hey, you're only putting the value on the last touch that generated that phone call, you're not getting the full picture. And so you're going to be making really uninformed, poor decisions with your marketing dollars unless you have something showing you that full attribution of that full customer journey, right? And proper attribution, giving credit where credit is due. And that's exactly, the power of the tool Insight.
Exactly.
Love it. All right. So when you are talking about the role of automation in the modern search environment, so much of the manual bidding practices of yesteryear have been replaced with algorithmic recommendations. But why is it still so important to have the savvy human hands-on keyboard really still being responsible for the overall strategy and trajectory of a modern Google Ads account or modern search account, whether it be Google, Microsoft, get into ChatGPT in a bit, but a modern search account? Why is that still so important, John?
Well, because as smart as the algorithms have gotten and as smart as AI has gotten, it still kind of lacks this overall understanding of how people actually communicate and where they actually are. So, if I'm using AI, for example, to write ad copy, it can spit out some really good ad copy really quickly. But if I don't go through that line by line and I just launched it all, it's going to be putting some headlines out there that maybe are not relevant to the area that the client is in. It might not be relevant to the services that they offer. It might be putting out things that the client can't actually do. So we need that kind of control. And we also need to understand what people are actually typing in and how that nuance applies to what they're really looking for. So we set a list of keywords in our Google Ads accounts, and that's our guess at what people are going to be looking for, right? You know, HVAC near me, electrician in San Antonio, those two examples. When somebody is really typing in, they're not necessarily just typing that all the time. They might be looking for best HVAC service company near me Reddit, right? They're trying to find a Reddit post of somebody that's going to recommend a good HVAC company to them. We want to show up. We want to show an ad for that. But Google might not prioritize that as much because it's so long tail and maybe not as relevant to what's on their landing page and the ad copy, but we can see that it is very relevant to it. So being able to review those by an actual person who knows the client in and out, knows the area in and out, and can filter out the stuff that's irrelevant and promote the stuff that's highly relevant is still really, really valuable. We are not giving up that kind of control just yet. But like I said, these algorithms are getting smarter and smarter. So the time that's spent on that should be diminishing in the future, and we can start to really focus more on what kind of landing page experience is better for people, what kind of offers are better for people, you know, higher level strategy rather than like which keywords are the most appropriate. So it's an exciting time to be a part of, but there's a lot of failure that has to happen with those things before we get the success that it will lead to.
Right. And I think picking up from an earlier part of our conversation, I think that the journey and the experience that the companies we work with are trying to create and understanding what those benchmarks of success look like in that consumer journey still matter and still change on a day-to-day basis, right? So we choose how we want to weight that interaction. And I still feel like, you know, all of our conversations, John, and the conversations with the team that, you know, we start seeing different, I guess, steps in the journey being way more or less meaningful to the ultimate dollar amount conversion, right? Like they may say, okay, you know, this search leading to, you know, this type of an appointment generates X% more likelihood of a bigger ticket replacement than this type of search leading to this type of appointment, leading to a much lower level service or repair job.
Right. And that's where the audience data that they have is very valuable, because take, for example, a keyword like AC repair. Am I trying to fix my window air conditioner unit, or am I trying to get my AC for my 4,000 square foot house fixed? Right. One of them, our HVAC client isn't going to service. They don't care about your window AC unit. Go to Walmart and buy a new one. The other one, though, that's a big ticket job. And that's the same exact 2-word keyword. And so that's where Google gets very, very smart. It's seeing the search behavior that led to this person to click on an ad after searching that tends to align with people that are looking for the higher ticket job. So we want to pay a little bit more to get in front of them because we think they're going to be higher value. Whereas the one that's looking to just fix their window unit, their search behavior and their history overall is going to align with that. And they're going to not show our ad as often for it because they know it's not as high a ticket. And so that's where this stuff becomes really, really valuable.
Yeah. And I think, you know, in so much of what we see today, really understanding how much the CRM data can inform a proper search strategy and the relationship of pulling back in your ideal buyer and really building that one-to-one connection that, the upload of customer data, of current customer data, of ideal customer data, how much that can inform a search strategy as well. And so having both of those departments in-house that are able to have that conversation about what our ideal buyer actually looks like, where they live, what they do, the buyer persona, their profile as informed by CRM data, and ensuring we parse that out and provide that to the search team, that just makes it the two buyers that you're talking about, both searching AC repair. It makes the much larger opportunity that much more likely, with that relationship of CRM data, ideal persona data, being really informative of the search journey and the bid strategies as well.
Yeah. And we can see the lifetime value of a customer that came from a very generic keyword like that. It takes a while, takes a couple of years to see that, but then we can also help our clients kind of help evolve their businesses. They might get somebody in the door to fix their broken garbage disposal, and then all of a sudden they find that their sewer's backed up, so they come back for that one, and then the person's looking for electrical, so they call these guys up again, and we see all this in their CRM. And the client says, "Oh, we don't do electrical." Well, if that happens enough, maybe they're going to start to think, "Oh, maybe we could start to offer electrical." Obviously, our customers want to have one person to go to instead of a whole bunch of others. So, that's the power of really analyzing and looking at that data every day.
Right. And so you had said earlier that somebody searching for a Reddit thread for a real recommendation is becoming, more and more relevant in the modern search environment, right? Like, we know that the journey when a customer is now searching for help in home services or legal or whatever the vertical may be, that Google is pulling from more and more trust signals than they ever have, right? It's not just what you're saying about yourself, but it's what is everybody else saying about you, right? What are they saying about you on Reddit? What are they saying about you on Nextdoor? What are they saying about you on social? So how are you seeing this impact or this shift in going from a me first environment and Google valuing what I say about myself on my website versus what is the community saying about you? How are you seeing that shift impact search?
It's really an organic way to build up your brand awareness. And it's very unique because you don't necessarily need to be doing this big strategy to get a good reputation on Reddit. You need to do your work really well, first of all, and people are going to start to talk about you. And so a couple of things with that. First, if you do get some visibility from a Reddit thread that you're the best HVAC provider in the area, you're going to get traffic from that. And then when people are searching, they might not click to your site or go to your site immediately, but they might remember your name from that Reddit thread. And so when your ad pops up before anybody else's, they're going to be like, that's the one that Reddit liked. I'm going to click on those guys and go check them out. But then aside from that, Reddit's not the only source out there. There's all kinds of different websites. And, when you search anything in Google now, the first thing you see these days is the AI results. And the AI results are compiled from all different websites with all different factoids about whatever somebody was searching for. And so if you are able to build your reputation on those websites through, good content creation and SEO, then it's going to serve to boost your overall brand awareness there. And so they might see, ABC Plumbing is the best plumber in our area in the AI results, and they're going to scroll down. Who's got the first ad that shows up? ABC Plumbing. And they're going to click on it because it was just recommended in that AI results right above it. So it's very, very powerful to do that, because it's that journey of clicking to different websites to compare and learn about who's in the area has been consolidated into one little box at the top of the search engine results page.
Love it. So with all this change, all this fluctuation, I think some marketers are using it to instill a bit of fear and say that they've got, AI search all figured out, which you and I both know is a completely bogus claim, because it is changing so fast that anybody that says they've got it all figured out is completely full of shit. So what are some of the things that, knowing how quickly it's changing, John, what would you tell the average business owner that just wants to understand wants to understand the truth of how their PPC campaign or how their search campaign is performing? What would you say? What are some of the questions they should be asking either their agency partner or their internal partner? What kind of report should they be asking for? Like, what would you say are like just a few things that, irrespective of how quickly this environment is changing, are the real basic kind of nuts and bolts that they should be expecting from their partner, today?
I think there's two simple questions that they need to be asking in every weekly meeting, which should be answered before they even ask them, but it should be, how much did I spend and what did I get for it? Right? If we are not able to answer those questions, then we're not providing the very basic part of our service to them. But then from there, provided what they are getting back for what they're spending is at or above their expectations, the next question they need to ask is, where else should I be spending money? And then that's where we start to find, well, we're not seeing enough awareness on these keywords. We're not getting enough traffic for these keywords. For example, like I said before, maybe electrical keywords, you're not getting enough volume out of them. So let's try to invest more in that area. And then that's where we're able to get in the weeds, right? Is those three questions. What am I spending? What did I get for it? Where else should I spend? I think that's as simple as it should be. You can get deeper on a whole lot of stuff, but if you aren't able to answer those questions, then I don't think you're servicing your clients the way that they need.
Right. Look, I think, when I hear the basic questions that we're talking that you just referenced, I think so much of the time a client can't even get a straight answer on that, let alone understanding what they're paying for a new customer, what percentage of the revenue that's coming in from Google Ads is new customer versus existing customer, what percentage is coming from brand and non-brand initiatives, and how much a new customer is costing them to acquire. How much on average a new customer is spending with them versus an existing customer. I think, being able to think through the types of conversations that we take a lot of pride in having. We're talking about how we're impacting capacity with each initiative, how we're feeding each service line, each location, the cross-sell and upsell opportunities within the search ecosystem. So when I think about the fact that some clients come to us and they can't get an answer from their current provider on how much did I spend and how much did it generate, to me, that's still the same front-end focus that keeps clients completely in the dark and keeps current marketing partners telling them that they're doing great and the client never seeing it result in any damn revenue, right? I think that's one of the biggest disconnects that we see is, hey, Mr. Marketing Guy, you're telling me I'm knocking it out of the park, yet I don't have any calls on the damn board for tomorrow and I got technicians that I'm going to have to send home. We obviously have a bit of a problem here, right?
Yeah, and then that's hard for us. We get clients in the door and immediately they don't trust us because they've been through that a couple times with other agencies. And so why would they trust our numbers when they haven't been able to trust them at all before? So it takes some time to build up that reputation and trust with them. But, I think that's what we do well. We're very, very transparent, can't hide behind the numbers. We want them to look at Insight just like we look at Insight and see the same exact data that we're making decisions off of. And then we're all in it together because that's what we want. We want to have a partnership that lasts a long time and we grow together.
Yeah. And I think, another one of the beautiful aspects of Insight is the very straightforward manner in which it represents the things that matter, right? So, hey, great that I got some phone calls and some form fills. How many jobs did I book? What was my booking rate, right? Of the jobs that we did book, how many of those jobs closed? Of the jobs that closed, what was my average ticket? And so being able to see that level of clarity in the entire buying journey, and then being able to also see how it impacts the big picture, how that not only impacts but informs the big picture strategic recommendation as to how we're going to help them achieve the goal they're trying to achieve without understanding that buying journey, without understanding how much a new customer is costing you and how much they're spending with you. It's impossible to know how you're actually doing against the goal that client is trying to hit. And so, so much of the time, clients come to us and they say, oh, I just kind of spend 10% of whatever the revenue is. And if you don't have a tool that can actually show you how to hit the goal you're trying to hit by real acquisition cost, real close rates, real average tickets, and showing you the difference in new versus existing customer data, how can you possibly have an intelligent conversation around where that client needs to spend that money for them to hit the goal they're trying to hit, right? It's impossible. So I just think, I think that's kind of the biggest disconnect we see is nobody's ever really broken it down like that, where, they're actually seeing with transparency and with clarity what each and every campaign, what each and every platform is driving for, every service type, every location. But that gives you the trust and the transparency to know that we actually are in it together because we're looking at real data. We're looking at real revenue. We're looking at real jobs that are actually showing up on their board in ServiceTitan or House Call Pro, or, real appointments that are actually coming into their firm with, real people that spend real money attached to them.
Yeah. And then they don't have to worry about, what keywords are getting the traffic. That's for us to figure out. When they look at it and they see maybe they got 20% increase in booked jobs, but their average ticket is down 30%. Ooh, should they start to talk to their CSRs about why those tickets are down and what can they do about it? That's their business. That's what they can focus on and move the needle with. We can get them the traffic and the qualified leads and do our part, but we work together and then everybody is successful in the long run.
All right, John. So awesome conversation today. One more question before we wrap here, sir. For businesses that are looking to take that next step of growth, right? What would you say from your perspective are, a couple key things for them to focus in on?
I think they need to first be comfortable with reinvesting when the returns are starting to get at or above their goals. So they can't just be excited that their paid search that was getting a $5 ROAS all of a sudden is getting a $7 ROAS and think that that's great. They need to take that $2 ROAS difference and reinvest it, whether into paid search or into other channels, to continue to build their overall awareness. They also need to really keep an eye on the competition, because if you start to move up and you start to be more and more visible, your competition's going to notice that. And if they're smart and they have the resources, they're going to get aggressive as well. And you can't get complacent on it and think this keyword is always going to give us this certain return, because you can lose your visibility on that really, really fast if you're not paying attention to it. So I would think those are two of the main things. I'm sure there's a laundry list of others, but you got to be comfortable with the growth and, be vigilant and protecting the real estate and the progress that you've made.
Right. So I think, that kind of speaks to why it's so important to have that human connection with your marketing partner, because there are real impacts that increase competition, changes in the auction, day-to-day surges or, decreases in demand that can have a real impact on the business. And so maintaining that pulse of, hey, what we did was great, but what did we learn and what's next? I think that's kind of the biggest thing from my perspective that I see is a real failure point in modern marketing, is not understanding what's next, right? And not building strategically what that next phase of growth is. You said, hey, we went from a 5X to a 7X, which, hey, on the surface, that's great. But then how does that inform the next phase of growth? How does that impact their ability to go hire a couple more technicians or a couple more, team members to be able to field the additional volume that increase in return creates, right? So I think that the job of a modern marketing partner is to take all of it into account and then, understand what could and should be better and keep the client informed as to what's coming next so they don't have to worry about it, right? And in my experience, the client doesn't want to worry about, how we're strategically shifting based on market conditions and what we see and kind of the allocation of budget between platforms. Like, they don't want to worry about that shit. They want to run their business and focus on what they can control and what they live day to day. And they want to trust that their marketing partner is informed and is looking at the market conditions, does understand the diversity of platforms necessary for that next phase of growth. So that's what I see, and that's what I appreciate, John, about you and the search team here at Ad Leverage, is the conversation is always around what's coming next.
Exactly. That's what we do. We're always looking down the road.
I love it. All right, John, thank you so much, man. Been a wealth of information. Really appreciate your time today. Thank you so much for hanging with us on this edition of Funnel Vision. We hope you learned a few things. We hope this puts you in better position to help your business grow and at least help ask some of the right questions to where you can be more informed on the things that you need to be with your marketing partner. We'll see you next time.